Hello, hello. It's Dr. Kevin Sansberry here. So, today's conversation is going to focus on time management, and specifically, we're going to be talking about the 12-week year. A lot of people that I'm coaching right now are really engaged in planning and looking at what they can do for this new year. I had a listener of the Toxic Leadership podcast come to me and describe their work environment, and so they talked about time management and stuff like that. I'll share it with you, but the solution we'll focus on is how the 12-week year can be applied in their organization. Now, many people that I coach one-on-one use it in regular life, so you can use it in organizations, you can use it in your own planning. So if you're interested in learning more about that, stick around. But without further ado, let's get to it. Welcome back to the Toxic Leadership Podcast. I'm Dr. Kevin Sansberry. So like I said before, today we're going to answer a listener's question, and I'm going to read it to you just so you can get an idea what their workplace is like. I'm writing to express my concerns about the current work environment in our department. Specifically, I've noticed that there seems to be an excessive number of priorities and lack of clear goal setting and time management. This has resulted in a high level of stress and burnout among team members and has negatively impacted our ability to complete projects and meet deadlines. I understand that our department is facing many challenges and that there is a lot of pressure to deliver on results, but I believe there is a more organized and systemic approach to goal setting and time management, and I think that would greatly benefit the team. I would like to propose a meeting to discuss ways to improve our work environment and better manage our time priorities, because I believe that by working together, we can create a more positive and productive work environment for everybody. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sean from Grand Rapids, Michigan. So that's the work environment that we are facing in today's episode and conversation. And Sean, what I'm going to suggest is your team operates with something called the 12-week year. So the 12-week year is a time management methodology, and it was developed by Brian Moran and Michael Lennington, and it aims to help individuals and organizations increase productivity to achieve their goal in a shorter period of time versus setting like annual or versus focusing on more of an annual. It really looks at how am I setting down my goals and breaking that down into a 12-week block, right? So the first thing to think about, before I jump into the 12-week year, big 5 steps that I'll share today, what I'm going to do is tell you about the 3 principles that they outline in the book. The first principle is accountability. So the key about accountability is not punitive or consequences. Look at accountability as ownership. With a 12-week year, you must be accountable to your actions and to the outcomes of the things you do, right? And so you want to ensure that everybody in this system kind of owns up to what they have control over in their wheelhouse, in their scope of control. That's first, accountability. So the second aspect that they talk about in the book from a principle standpoint is commitment. And what that looks like is essentially getting everyone involved to own up and keep promises to ourselves. So, if I'm setting a promise to achieve this goal in my department or in the work I'm doing, we need everybody to have ownership and commitment. So ownership, accountability, and then commitment to the goal itself. So it has to matter. It has to matter to us. And then the last principle that you want to instill in the group it's called greatness in the moment. Now, one of the things that greatness in the moment talked about was that notion of delayed gratification. You know how sometimes when the going gets tough, people will choose that path of least resistance instead of, going through that growth and that pain that sometimes is necessary when it comes to change. And so it's important to be mindful of that moment and really share that doing the hard things now will have payoff later, and having that a part of our psyche, because a lot of times people want to give up in the moment on the journey, climbing the mountain, and they won't ever reach that summit. And so it's important to internalize accountability, commitment, and greatness in the moment as it relates to how we set the stage for our 12-week year. So step 1 is establishing your vision. And the first step is really establishing a vision that is emotionally compelling in the long run. And this is important because you're not going to want to wake up every day and be ready for action. And so it's important that this is emotionally compelling so that it can get you out of bed, so that it can get you motivated every time you hear it. When you talk about a vision, some of the things that you'll read is sometimes they'll say, set your ultimate, it's called your imagined future. At least when I coach folks, it's an imagined future. And that's like, what do you ultimately want? When I talk about a long-term vision, you can think about also setting my imagined future. I want to be, do, or have. And then you can also just set a time-bound vision where it's like 3 to 5 years I want to be, do, and have, right? And so that gives you something to anchor towards. But make sure whatever this vision is emotionally compelling for members of the unit, or if you're doing it, in your own personal life, it's emotionally compelling to you. So step 2 is fun because this is where you get into the 12-week modality, because step 2 is called the 12-week specificity. And what this means is you want to set 1 or 2 specific and measurable goals that are anchored towards your vision that you can accomplish in 12 weeks. For each one of these goals that you set, so let's say you said, you got this is our ultimate imagined future, what we want to accomplish in a department or whatever. Here are the 2 goals you want to set at 12 weeks. Underneath those 2 goals, you want to also define like weekly actions that you will do. That'll get you to your goal in 12 weeks. Those weekly actions are called lead indicators, and I'm going to talk about that in the further steps on the 5 in a second. But just know for now, those are lead indicators. And essentially, for each goal that you set in the 12-week period, these are going to be your weekly actions underneath. So step 3 is how you're going to be setting up your sustainability processes, and this is going to keep you anchored and motivated to accomplishing your goals in the 12-week period, right? So what you want to do here is on the personal side, at the individual level, you want to take about 15 minutes at the beginning of the week and look over what are the actions that I need to complete this week to stay on track. So the second thing you want to do is reread that vision every morning. And this is important because, like I said before, your vision needs to be emotionally compelling and get you out of bed. So what better thing to do than read it every day, right? And so that's the second thing you want to do from an individual level. Now, as a group, so if we're doing this 12-week period to the point that you said as a team or my company, we're going to set up a weekly accountability meeting. And this could be done on Monday morning where everybody in the group who's a part of this, who has a piece of this 12-week goal or plan, we set up 20 minutes where we go over successes, we go over challenges, and then we'll also share last week's score. And this is really fun because it's kind of gamified. And you could attach prizes to it or something if you wanted to, or, but really gamify it. But there's a score involved. So if you like winning and like taking count, next step you'll love. So step 4, I really like step 4, and that's really setting up your measurement system. And this is where those lead indicators and now lag indicators really come into play. So remember step 2 when we said, you're going to identify your goals and then your weekly actions that you're going to use to accomplish those goals. So those weekly actions are your lead indicators. So essentially they're telling you, if we do these things, we hope, or we know, we have leading indication that we'll accomplish this 12-week goal because we're doing things that anchor up to the 12-week goal, right? Now, lag indicators are the ultimate measure of your 12-week goal because you can only know that at the end. So it's like a look backwards. Did we do it? So lead is, are we going to get there? Lag is, did we do it? Like lagging behind. So I want to share with you an example that you could use as you're thinking about, lead indicators and lag indicators in a real life example. So imagine your organization, y'all set a goal where it's like, ultimately we want to raise $100,000 as our 12-week goal, on track to raise $1 million in 10 years, right? Oh, wait, that didn't make mathematical sense. So let's say you wanted to raise, let's say $100,000 is our goal for 12 weeks, $1.2 million is our goal for the year, whatever. And so with that being said, lead indicators. Think about what lead indicators could apply to raising money. Well, if I'm saying, okay, 12-week goal, $100,000, goal 1. And let's say we have one goal. Some lead indicators could be contacting 5 investors per week. Because remember, you have to have numbers. They have to be measurable. So contacting 5 investors per week. Boom. 10 referral calls per week. 3 Kickstarter social media posts. So we have a Kickstarter. So we're going to do 3 posts about that per week. So the scoring process is, if I contacted 2, or 2.5, that's 50%. If I contacted, you want to start scoring yourself on each one of those weekly goals. So if I had 10 referral calls, like I said, you contact 4, that's 40% for that week. And so those are the scores you're going to review every week with your team. You're going to look back and review those. Now, everybody reviews their lead indicators. Again, it's not meant to be punitive. It's meant to be motivational for folks, and we'll help each other provide support. That lag indicator, like I said, is at the end of 12 weeks. Where did we score on actually raising money? Could be something like we got an 80% on a lag indicator because we only raised 80,000 of the 100,000 in that 12-week period. So our score for the 12-week period is 80%. Lead indicators, lag indicators. It's really important not to make this demoralizing. So when you talk about these goals, you want to make it motivational. It's something I like to call spiraling up. So we're looking to spiral up. And what that means is by the end of our weekly calls, we want to leave people better off than where they were before. And so we'll ask questions to see what support people need. We will ask questions to see if they have all the resources they need to hit the ground running, so on and so forth. Spiral up. Do not spiral down. Spiraling down is toxic. All right, so we're at step 5. So the strategy that I'd recommend using is time blocking. You want to set these rules for everybody, because if one person is doing it, and nobody else is doing it, then it kind of wouldn't work. An example of that would be sometimes I've had departments who we're going to not work Fridays, but then the rest of the company worked Fridays. So then the department got vilified because they're trying to do some work-life balance. So don't do that. It has to be some kind of unity around how we're going to utilize time. And so here are some ideas as it relates to getting our team around time utilization. It could be something like we're going to set up 3 hours a week for deep work, strategic time. Everybody can pick 3 hours a week. It could be, and maybe we do it all at the same time, but I'm just saying, make that a norm. The second thing you want to do is maybe we do one to two 30 or 60 minute time periods called buffer blocks. And these could be things like, we'll do this every day, where this is where I do my emails. This is where I handle emergent tasks. Buffer blocks. You also want to look at maybe doing a breakout block. And what this breakout block does is allows people, 3 hours during the week to focus on wellness things, focus on professional development, whatever that might be that is something additional to their role that they're doing, like some PD or things like that. And then, of course, you got meetings, appointments, and things like that. But what I'll say about meetings, especially as we're thinking about the 12-week year, is look at what the meetings are, because just like you anchored your week in service of the 12-week goal, and you anchored your 12-week goal in service of the ultimate goal that you set, long-term goal or long-term vision, your meetings, what are they anchored to? You want to find ways to look at, are the meetings that we have anchored to the accomplishment of this 12-week goal? Because if they're not, maybe you don't need them. You can use tools like Loom to record a message you want to say. And you can have a PowerPoint and go over something like that. You can immediately eliminate a meeting sometimes. Really look at your meetings in this, because if we're focused on accomplishing a 12-week goal, I don't want those, we got an all-staff meeting. I don't want that to hinder the accomplishment of the goal because somebody's not able to accomplish their weekly, leading indicators. So be mindful of that. So time usage is super important, and we must be efficient. So one last thing I'll say about the 12-week year process is there are a few things to remember and keep in mind. The first is be mindful not to set unrealistic goals. Like I said before, your goals should be specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, timely. You want to ensure that the goals are even doable in 12 weeks, because if it's something unrealistic, you're already setting yourself and your team up for failure. 2, don't try to implement too much at one time. There are a lot of times where, change is hard. Change is super hard, but also change is constant and unavoidable. We're going to do the buffer block thing first. Test out things. They do small tests of change, not just do swooping massive changes. Give things time to kind of marinate and get implemented. The third thing I'll say to remember and be mindful of is track your progress. And so find a way to be able to graphically represent the scores of your team over time. And as you look back and have your weekly meetings, you can have conversation about what behaviors drove this 100% score, what behavior drove this 60% score, because you can have something like we can visually see where we are, a trend analysis over time. Because let's say 1 week I'm at 60%, but I've been upward trend the whole time, the whole year. Well, one blip, should not be a problem. We only see and rectify in patterns, right? And so that will allow us, if we graphically, record our progress in a mindful way, we'll be able to do trend analysis and not reflect negatively or positively off a single data point. The last thing is not having accountability partners. And so if I had a team of folks doing a 12-week year, I'd look at trying to pair people as partners, like accountability partners within the group, because that could give me somebody I can like text or call, like on Wednesday. Monday, like I said, Monday we review things and talk, but maybe on Wednesday in the moment, I want to like, hey, I need help with this, or hey, do you have any resources here with the, we had to raise the money. Do you have any leads I can call, or do you have any ideas of what I can say on social media for the Kickstarter program, whatever? I would have everybody paired up with an accountability partner as it relates to this 12-week goal process, because I think that'd be really important for you. Now, at the individual level, if you're thinking about the 12-week year and you have your 12-week goals, same thing, have an accountability partner. That would be really helpful for you in maintaining momentum to accomplishing your ultimate goal. So I want to thank Sean from Grand Rapids, Michigan for asking the question on askdrkev.com. I hope this was helpful for you and your team as it relates to implementation. Don't take on too much too soon, but I think this video can provide you with some actionable steps on how you all can have a structure around your goal setting in your organizational culture. And if you're watching this video as an individual, this should be helpful for you as it relates to you setting, your goals in a different way to ensure that you're laddering up to something grander and accomplishing everything 12 weeks at a time. So I want to thank you for listening to the Toxic Leadership Podcast. Please follow and subscribe on YouTube. I'm Dr. Kevin Sansberry, signing out.